We're going to go ahead and get started. Our first session is actually based on the General Services Administration for the federal government. And one of the big takeaways today is going to be all about what they purchase. So today we have Enshane, Hill, Nomoto, and we'll also have Anthony Caruso, and they're going to start with the FAQs and doing business with GSA. And so with that, I'll turn this over to Enshane. And Enshane, if you could give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then we'll have Anthony do that also. So we'll turn it over to Enshane. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us today. As Leslie stated, my name is Enshane Nomoto. I am here with Anthony Caruso. We are small business technical advisors from GSA. I'm the Region 10 representative located in Auburn. We'll soon be moving to Tacoma. Anthony is out of Los Angeles. He's with Region 9, and we support different states. I particularly support Oregon, Alaska, Washington, and Idaho. And Anthony's region supports Arizona, Nevada, California,
Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii.
Yeah, they get all the good, sunny places like Hawaii and Guam. It's no fair. I always want to travel and do trainings with them. So I have been with GSA. Actually, I'm new as a small business specialist. I started back in February. Before that, I was actually a buyer for the federal government. I was in procurement and contracting for the Air Force, most recently Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the VA. So a lot of experience there. And now being able to assist small businesses and being that middleman for small businesses and the acquisition staff has been really interesting. And I'll have to say this, GSA, when I worked in the other agencies, I was always so intimidated by GSA because it was just so encompassing. It was, we used GSA cars, we leased GSA leased the buildings that we worked in. I didn't realize, how intricate and involved GSA was in everything as far as government, how the government works. But being on this end and working for GSA has been very insightful and really rewarding. So Anthony, I don't know if you wanted to give a little bit about yourself, but this is our veteran here, Anthony.
I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah,
okay.
With Region 9, and I've been here about 16 years, so I guess I'm the old timer on
That's
this
right.
today.
You get both ends of the spectrum here.
I'm supporting Enshane. This is her show, so I'm just here to chime in when I can.
Yeah, he'll be able to model some of the tools that we'll be presenting at the end of our presentation. So I'm going to try and go through these slides as efficiently as I possibly can to be able to answer your questions at the end of the presentation, and Anthony can model our tools. So let's get started with the first slide. So the information we're going to cover today in detail is really set up to address many of the questions that we regularly receive from industry customers, starting with the obvious, what is GSA? So the second most asked question is, does GSA buy what I sell? And we'll talk about the importance of your market research to understand who your competitors are and to decide if it's ultimately worth your time and energy. This process is not going to be quick, and for many it's not easy to get on GSA schedules. So it's really important to utilize free resources that are available before you jump in. And then the next question we have is, where do I start? Accessing federal opportunities online is really the first place that we tell folks to go to. And finally, who can I contact when I need help? I've looked at all these resources and I still have a lot of questions. So we'll provide a list of contacts nationwide for GSA Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. That's who Anthony and I work for, and we have a great network of folks across the country who can help you. So next slide, please. So the first question, oh, I see how it has to scroll. Sorry. So what is GSA? All right, General Services Administration is a federal civilian agency that began in 1949 by President Truman. And this slide gives you a snapshot about GSA and our mission. I often tell folks, in essence, and this is what I learned since I started working here, that GSA is really the Amazon, the Costco, and the Century 21. If I'm dating myself, maybe I should say Redfin of the federal government. We buy, we sell, and we manage a massive portfolio of goods, real estate, and services, all for the federal and sometimes local and state agencies to utilize. So our mission is to deliver value and savings in real estate acquisition and technology and other mission support services across the federal government. So over the years, our mission has evolved, right? And today GSA is one of the federal government's largest buyers and contracts for billions of dollars worth of products and services for other federal civilian agencies and DoD customers worldwide. So our policies promote management, best practices, and efficient government operations. We are all about efficiency. So what does this mean for small business? Well, GSA serves the same customer agencies that you market to. So if you're interested in selling to the federal government, it may be worth your time to explore what GSA offers. And we hope that the next few slides will help shed some light on where to start. Next slide, please. So this is more of our agency overview, just what we do in the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. We're also called OSDBU for short. I am a small business advocate. Anthony is a small business advocate. Our office is often referred to as the front door for small businesses looking to work with GSA. So we oversee the small business programs, and we provide counseling to all businesses, both large and small. We promote increased access to GSA's nationwide procurement opportunities by working with our acquisition workforce. They often have a lot of questions about how to get more small businesses involved in their procurements, and we counsel them, as well as small businesses and large businesses, for subcontracting opportunities to do that. We implement small business policies and manage a range of programs that are mandated by law. And so the socioeconomic programs that we advocate and that are mandated include the programs you're going to see on the next slide. So next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, our office works to increase small business participation in our acquisitions and in our programs, advocating for socioeconomic categories, which includes the businesses you see here, small disadvantaged business, like 8As, women-owned small business, historically underutilized business zones, we call them hub zones, veteran-owned small businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and just small businesses in general. And there's a lot more you can learn about our office by visiting our website. You can see the link listed below. You see the different OSDBU regions here. My region is circled. I'm from the Arctic region, which is, like I said, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. And Anthony represents the orange region down there in California. And this map will help you identify, all of the particular regions. So feel free to reach out to your local GSA small business specialist in any region that you're looking to do business with GSA. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is really the bread and butter of our organization. We're made up of two components which offer contract opportunities. We have our public building service, also known as PBS, and our federal acquisition services, also known as FAST. PBS is like the Century 21 Redfin. We lead the way in green building design, construction, retrofit, sustainable operations, and maintenance. GSA is considered the government's landlord. And as you can see, PBS owns and or leases 8,600 assets, and GSA maintains an inventory of more than 370 million square feet of workspace for 1.1 million federal employees. And it also preserves historic properties, 500 properties to be exact. So if you offer services in construction, maintenance, building operations, leasing, and other related construction services, it would be in your best interest to visit the GSA PBS website. And I think we have the link there listed below. The Federal Acquisition Service, FAST, offers access to a wide variety of contract opportunities. Their contract vehicles offer billions of dollars worth of products and services and facilities that federal agencies need to serve the public. So there's always an open solicitation available for you to become an industry partner and to help GSA supply federal agencies with your products and services. So next slide, please. So how does GSA do business? Well, our customers are DoD and all the federal agencies you see listed here, and what's not listed here are the state and local governments, as well as the tribal entities that we also serve. Whether it's in PBS or FAST, our mission is to ensure that agencies can focus on their mission, and we do this stuff in the background. That's why I didn't realize how much GSA was involved in until I started working for GSA, because they're always in the background. I was always focusing on my work in the Air Force VA, and GSA was really helping to support us and allowing us to do that. So in FAST, one of the largest ways we reach our customers is through multiple award schedules and other IDIQ contracts. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. So what is the multiple award schedule? For those of you who don't know, we'll introduce some of the products and services that we offer. Next slide, please. So MAS, or multiple award schedules, are publicized by a standing consolidated solicitation posted on sam.gov. That's the website. Under contract opportunities, there's a section that says contract opportunities, and there are over 19,000 schedule contractors right now, and 80% of those contractors are small businesses. So what does that mean for you? Next slide, please. That means that the multiple award schedule promotes small business utilization by using set-asides at the schedule level. So total small business set-asides at the schedule level include services that you see listed here. And you have local courier delivery, photographic services, facility maintenance, snow equipment. There's so many. Next slide. I think we can go and look and see. All right, so how do you know if GSA buys what you sell off of these multiple award schedules? Well, this is a glimpse of some of the products and services that we provide DoD, federal agencies, state and local governments. And this is just a glimpse, right? You can check out the full list on GSA Library. You see the link there below. This website is a really great resource to check out and see if your company sells what your company sells is what GSA already provides to its customers. And that's important because you can consider working with GSA to get on that particular contract or the IDIQ, because it's open all year round for vendors to tap into the market, even if they don't. But you can also look at your competition and see if there are other vendors that are selling the same thing. You can see who has the contract. what their prices are, what's the structure of their contract. And like I said, at the end, we can try and go into GSA Library so you can see examples of that. Next slide. So here's a list of GSA's government-wide acquisition contracts. So this is different. These are pre-competed, multiple award, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts that agencies use to buy total IT solutions. So through these GWACs, the federal government can buy cost-effective, innovative solutions for IT requirements. And the total contract ceiling for each GWAC is in the billions. So what does that mean for small business? If you are in the IT industry, please visit the website below, and you will get a copy of these slides, I believe, and view the list of the contract holders, because you could find potential teaming and subcontracting opportunities with the current contract holders. In addition, GSA has a new small business GWAC. It's the Polaris GWAC. You can view information on sam.gov by using the notice ID. I think it's listed there. Yes, it is. The Polaris GWAC will provide federal customer agencies with customized IT solutions from highly qualified small businesses. So if you have questions, you can email that Polaris team. You can also get updates on our GWACs by signing up for GSA's Interact. So please visit the website and get that information. Next slide, please. Okay, so now the biggest question is, how do I get started? It can seem pretty overwhelming. The road to federal contracts really begins with market research. You know why? It's obvious. Data. You need data to help you find the answers. It's just like any other market that you're researching. You want to be proactive in capturing potential opportunities. You need data to help you develop an effective strategic plan and target your, for your targeted marketing strategy. And there are free tools available online to assist you to do that. So before you go and consider paying thousands of dollars for a consultant, there are certain things, if you set aside the time to do it, there are tools that you can use to do that. And that's what we want to introduce to you today. So why do you want to use these tools? You can indicate which federal agencies and departments are buying your products and services. It can outline how much they're buying and if they have awarded any set-asides for those particular products and services. And they identify who your competition is in the marketplace. So, sometimes that can show your potential partners. And it also displays contracts that are scheduled to expire so that you can potentially compete in the future. And I say potentially because not all contracts are recompeted with GSA, especially if we're buying for other agencies. We might be doing the favor for them this time and they might be buying that product or service on their own next time around. But looking at expiring contracts or contracts that are scheduled to end can help you get ahead of the information that's typically provided in the agency's forecasting opportunities tool. And that can reveal potential agency partners outside of GSA. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, and this might be, we're really starting with layman's terms here. There's some of you who are joining us who have experience with government contracts. I say congratulations, but for those of you who are new to this, we're going to start with the basics. And one of those is the NAICS code. It stands for the North American Industry Classification System. The NAICS code represents your industry and is critical in doing business with the federal government. When a federal agency is posting an opportunity, it'll be specific to a NAICS code, which identifies the size standard and identifies the small business available, right? So you can have more than one NAICS code and can be both large and small, depending on the NAICS code size standard. It's important to determine your business category, and also any socioeconomic status. For example, are you women-owned small business and a hub zone? Are you an 8A? Do you also qualify as a service-disabled small business? There are contracting benefits for small businesses by socioeconomic category. So it's important to identify each category you're eligible for. If you don't fall into any of these categories, there will be opportunities set aside specifically just for small businesses. You can figure out which opportunities allow you the most benefit. But first and foremost, find your NAICS code. So it's also critical that you update the SAM system with your correct NAICS code. You're conducting business in, so agencies and potential teaming partners searching for companies in your industry will be able to find you. Okay, so next slide, please. All right, so you found your NAICS code. Another one of the key items that you, oh, I think we skipped ahead an extra slide. Can we go back? It's the one about the NAICS. Yep, that one. NAICS and PSC code. Thank you. Another one of the key items that you'll need to know is your product service code, also referred to as your PSC. So using your PSC will allow you to filter for your specific product or service. So NAICS and PSC codes represent a major tool used by government agencies to classify procurements of goods and services. NAICS classifies commercial activity into broad categories, i.e. manufacturer, wholesaler, retail services. PSCs are used to describe products and services in a more detailed fashion. So remember, the NAICS code is what you do, and the PSC code is more of how you do it, if that makes sense. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, and I have market research tool number 1. All right, I'm going to start by introducing 3 great market research tools that are free and available to you online. While there are many tools, I believe that these 3 are a great way to start building familiarity with government and GSA contracts. The first is USA Spending, and it's a government source for data on not only contracts, but also federal grants and loans and other financial assistance. So the website enables searching of federal awards from fiscal year 2008 to the present by state, congressional district, county, zip code. And the data is pulled from the Federal Procurement Data System, FPDS, which is a tracking tool that lists all government contracts with awards above $25,000. So the site also provides tools for examining a broader picture of federal spending obligations by categories. But USA Spending does not include data on actual spending. It's just for the awards and the award amounts. So federal agencies are required to submit reports on award transactions within 30 days after the transactions are implemented. And there may be a longer lag time with DoD. Sometimes, generally it's 90 days. So you can go in and play around with that site. There are tutorials there, and if we have time, Anthony will show us how to go into that site. So next slide, please. So this is market research tool number 2, and this is what I had mentioned earlier. GSA Library, it lists all of our mass schedule, our contracts. It's a great source for finding the latest GSA contract award information. Not only mass, but GWACs, technology contracts, assisted acquisition service contracts. Those are contracts where we buy goods and services for other agencies specifically. If we have time to do a live demo later, you'll see how you could start by putting in the NAICS code or the keyword, or just see what your competition is, and perhaps most importantly, what the price is for the list of services and supplies that these folks already have on schedule. So if you want to dig deeper, There are other sites and training that you can access from this website in the additional information box, which has a link specifically for contractors. Next slide. So market research tool number 3 is the Schedule Sales Query Database tool. It provides sales figures reported by GSA, particularly the multiple award schedule vendors. Using SSQ Plus will provide you with a barometer of the profitability of your product or service, and it'll allow you to see who your competitors are and how they're performing on the schedules as we speak. This is also a great way to assess the marketplace for your product or service with respect to the schedules program and determine if the schedules is really right for your business. And then finally, the schedule sales query can be located at the link you see in the last bullet. For details on a variety of our market research tools, visit the link at the very bottom of this slide, because that tells you all the different tools, not only ones that we introduced here, but there's even more. And you can go at that link and check out the other resources. Next slide, please. Okay, so you've done market research and you've decided that you want to do business with GSA or any other federal agency for that matter. There are minimum requirements you must meet, which includes signing up in various databases. Okay, so you have to obtain a DUNS number, which stands for Data Universal Numbering System. And DUNS will soon be changing. You can see in the yellow box there, it will be changing over to the Unique Entity Identifier number in April of 2022. Yeah, that's what it says. So if you're already in SAM, and you'll be assigned a UEI number once the changes go into effect. Your DUNS number will still be your SAM registration for historical information, but will no longer be the primary method to search SAM.gov and the dynamic small business search database. For more information, please see our GSA website, which is listed in the link below. You will also need to register in SAM.gov, which stands for System for Award Management. The system ties into how the federal government and potential small business teaming partners will find your company by completing your company profile. So generally, a contracting officer who's looking for a construction firm will use SAM.gov and the dynamic small business search to view a list of construction companies located in a particular region or a nationwide search to find companies for market research. So when updating your SAM registration, you need to identify your business size, and the size changes depending on the products or service you offer. So the SBA size standards website and the PTAC will give you additional information for that. So let's go to the next slide, please. And I see we've got questions popping up, so I'm going to try and zoom through these. Yeah, that's the slide. Thank you. If you are looking for federal contract opportunities right now, so you've got your NAICS code, you've got your PSC code or your FSC code, you've got a DUNS, you're registered in SAM, you'll need to visit the FBO, or Federal Business Opportunities site, which is no longer FBO, it is in SAM. It's now the government point of entry for federal agencies to post special notices, such as events, pre-bid conferences, sources sought, synopses, solicitations, notices of intent. If you're new to the SAM.gov website, please check out the Learning Center. I think the link is right there in the homepage. SAM.gov is growing and consolidating numerous other legacy sites, which includes like the Department of Labor, the wage determinations, contract data reports, all which moved over from FPDS. So the website continues to grow beyond contract opportunities, and it'll be helpful to do some research on this site. And just for, heads up, in the yellow box there, in May, Beta SAM changed over to SAM. So that's why if any of you are familiar with beta.sam, it's now just sam.gov. Next slide, please. Okay, so for those of you already registered in sam.gov, please take a look at your current dynamic small business search profile page. This is specifically for small businesses. This site is essentially your free advertisement for federal government and potential teaming partners. This is literally the first place federal agencies visit to find small businesses for their requirements. So prime contractors also use this site to determine potential subcontractors. So we mention this because we see outdated information on the company profiles quite often. It could be an email or a phone number that isn't in service, or a point of contact that's no longer with the company. So this site may be your first contact with the government agencies. Please check regularly and ensure it accurately reflects your current business. Updates are done through the sam.gov website, and the resulting dynamic small business search data is pulled directly from sam.gov, which could leave unpopulated fields. So just double check that. I'll say that one more time. Updates are done through sam.gov, and the resulting dynamic small business search data is pulled directly from that. And some fields could be unpopulated. So double check and get help on the sam.gov website if you see that. Also, pay attention to your capabilities narrative. It should really be polished. Make note of any specialized services or supplies you provide, and highlight particular technical expertise that separates you out from the competition, specifically in this section. Also, take a look at your keywords. Keywords help narrow the search results, and it's helpful if we're looking for additional specialties or specialized skills that are less common under the general NAICS code category. So make sure you update this section with your common industry keywords. And again, highlight those specialized keywords that differentiate you from your competition in that section. If you need assistance, your PTAC is there to help. So next slide, please. All right, so what is the source of sought synopsis? These are one of the things that you will see in the sam.gov website. This is really important because when federal contracting offices are looking to identify an acquisition for a particular requirement, they conduct market research too. And a popular way to do that is by posting a source of sought notice or synopsis. These notices are posted, like I said, in sam.gov. The results of these notices help form the contracting officer's determination as to whether or not they're going to set this aside for small business or for any of the socioeconomic categories I mentioned earlier. These source of sought notices help contracting determine and document the findings, and supports us if a solicitation will go out, even if it goes out large or full and open. Full and open means it'll be open to both large and small businesses. So if enough responses to these sources sought synopses are received by small businesses, then that's how you get your set aside. So it's important to respond to those. If you think you qualify, by all means, just respond. Next slide, please. And like I said, why would you respond to a source of sought notice? It's because we want to determine if we can set aside an opportunity for small business. When we receive 2 or more responses from small businesses who are capable, we can set aside for small business. So it also helps us to determine the small business subcontracting goals for contracts that are not set aside. So if a contract is awarded to a large business and the dollar threshold exceeds, I think it's $750,000 for products and services, and for construction it's $1.5 million. If that contract is at that amount, then the vendor is required to establish a subcontracting plan, and it should generate subcontracting opportunities for small business. Next slide, please. Oh, I just noticed the numbers are right there. Okay, so here are some important tips regarding your response to a sources sought notice. You want to ensure that your response is aligned with the requirements listed in the notice. Don't just give a boilerplate capability statement. And overall, make sure your response demonstrates your abilities and expresses your knowledge and your experience. Make sure that your past performance is relevant and recent and cites contracts that your company has performed, which involve the same or similar scope of work. Next slide. Okay, so many vendors also want to know, what's going to be coming up in the future. And while that might be a difficult question, there is a way to see what's coming down the pipe for each agency. We want to ensure that you're familiar with the forecast of contract opportunities. Let me check my time, make sure we can definitely go through this at the end of the presentation. All government agencies maintain a forecast of contracting opportunities website. We're required to for all future and expected requirements over 25, what they estimate to be over $25,000 for supplies and services. And it's also known as the acquisition gateway. So the forecast tool provides information on planned federal contracting opportunities and assists with acquisition planning by helping vendors learn about potential prime contracting opportunities early in the process. And not all of these requirements listed in the forecast will definitely be awarded. There's no promise, but they're uploaded to give contractors an overview of what should be coming from each agency. And in our case, it would be GSA Region 10. And that's how you would set up your search. So you can filter the data by agency, location, place of performance, NAICS code, contract type. There's many different ways that you can set up that search. And a quick link was developed for the forecasting site, and it's www, I think there it is, fbf.gov. There are also 2 other links that will take you to our GSA forecast sites. The acquisition.gov website will also take you to all of the federal agency forecast sites. Next slide, please. Okay, so this site is currently being updated. I'm not sure that if you click on the link, it'll take you directly to it. I think it says it's under construction, but I want to make sure that you guys were aware of this. We also offer GSA a nationwide list of prime contractor directories and who have received federal contracts of over $750,000 and for products and services, 1.5 million for construction. This means that there may be subcontracting opportunities for you as a small business. So you may find it helpful to filter the opportunities by NAICS code or the prime contractor's headquarters location or by the state where the work is performed. And in addition to the GSA subcontracting directory, you can also utilize GSA Library, the previous website that I showed you, to identify large prime contractors who potentially have subcontracting opportunities. You don't have to hold a scheduled contract with GSA. You may be able to be the regional subcontractor for an other than small business, or a small business that currently has a schedule. So you don't have to have the schedule. Please visit both websites to do further research. Next slide, please. Okay, and now we are at our last tool. I think I said I'd show you only 3, but we've gone through quite a few. This is the federal subcontract opportunities on SBA's subnet. And this site is a great way for small businesses to search for potential contract opportunities with large prime contractors. As a small business, you should choose the location from the subnet map, and it will provide a list of contract opportunities by location, the closing date, the point of contact. We highly recommend visiting this site. So next slide, please. Okay, so I'm gonna foot stomp this slide because we highly recommend that you take the aforementioned steps prior to taking your capability statement to an agency contracting representative. Again, I bullet pointed them out as well. Utilize the tools for market research. Getting the right data can help you improve your efficiency and your effectiveness doing business with the federal government. And it's important to use the data to develop your strategy first and effectively use the resources that are here for you. And then once you have the right data, you can strategically choose the right events to attend. If there are training events, if, you know, just like what you've done today, you're here with us because you're interested in what GSA opportunities there are, and we highly suggest that you use the tools available to you. And instead of attending every event, you know, attend those where you've identified that you have potential customers through your data analysis. And you can learn more about upcoming procurement opportunities and procurement practices and key points of contact in the agency with the pertinent information. So next slide. Okay, so this is a hot topic, obviously, because we still are in the midst of a pandemic, and GSA's Federal Acquisition Service has been helping federal, state, and local partners acquire mission critical goods and services through the COVID-19 pandemic. So additionally, we've created buying guides and key products that folks need to respond to COVID-19. So how can you help? Well, this information is for both GSA suppliers and prospective suppliers. First and foremost, respond to our industry COVID-19 request for information. I believe it's still active. And by responding to that, industry can get daily emails asking for updates on available personal protective equipment, things like that. Through our market research as a service process, we have dedicated teams sourcing critical supplies such as masks, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies. And these reports are provided to buying organizations within GSA and across the government. So there's always opportunities to consider pursuing subcontracting opportunities with GSA contract holders at the website listed below. And we'll mention more of this as we continue. Let's see how much time we have. We've got 15 minutes. So I've got these COVID-19 slides that will be available for you regarding the American Rescue Plan Act and things like that. How are we doing with time? Do we get to have the Q&A at 2? And then it goes to 2:15. Just want to make sure I'm doing okay here.
Well, actually, your section runs until about 2:20.
Oh, okay, great.
Or 2:25.
Okay, great. I just wanted to double check. Well, then we do have some time to discuss these slides then. Thank you. Okay, so with this particular slide, on March 11th, 2021, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act into law, and that provides additional relief for the nation's small businesses and hard-hit industries. So the SBA is currently administering and adding new efforts, and this slide provides the list of additional relief efforts. The SBA website really should be your first stop for this particular information. We just wanted to put it in here to make sure you visit the website and access all of the instructions and details. Some of the programs are no longer taking applications. There are some new programs that have sprung up. So just stay abreast of that by going to the website at the link listed below. Please also be aware of malicious COVID-19 phishing. Really protect your identity and your privacy by never providing your personal information or your case numbers to third-party emails. Next slide, please. Also, no, I think that, can we go back one slide? Oh, it looks like it skipped a slide, but it's okay. I will catch up to where you are. Oh, that's interesting. No. Oh, okay, there we go. There we go. All right, so we'll move to the next slide. We'll go one more slide up and see where we are. It looks like we left. Okay, there we go. So you can stay informed by reviewing the acquisition information. I'm glad we got that slide. That has all the resources and the links. I was praying that that was still in there. If you'd like to pursue a GSA contract, please visit the Mass Roadmap link. It's down there, and you can see if the GSA schedules are a good fit for your company. Let's go to the next slide. So as the impact of COVID-19 continues to evolve, and as I mentioned before, we all know that there are individuals who are already committing scams and fraud and targeting small businesses. So these are the links, and I don't think these are active links in the presentation that you'll get, but you can definitely, and thank you, Andrew, for posting those links in the chat. You can look at each agency and go directly and look at more information, because they're posting the latest scams on a daily basis, just so you can protect yourself and be aware of the scams up front. So next slide, please. All right, finally, who can you contact? Well, it doesn't matter if you're a startup business or if you've been in business for 20 years. If you're new to the federal government arena, you want to make sure you visit your local PTAC. And I've mentioned them throughout the webinar, and they're sponsoring us today because they provide the training, the counseling, the marketing, the financial information. And this website will lead you to the nationwide list of PTACs. So make sure you include them in the process. Also take time to visit the Small Business Administration. Their website and personnel have lots of resources. I've listed 3 sources at the SBA that'll be helpful in this as a starting point in doing business with the federal government. And our next slide here. These following slides include the list of GSA OMWBE counterparts, my colleagues, and this is in alphabetical order across the country. We believe in utilizing and advertising our GSA small business program to the best of our ability. So small businesses will always be our top priority, and please reach out to me or any of these contacts as you're looking for opportunities in any of the states and regions listed within GSA. I'll also provide the direct link, I think maybe that's already been provided, to the GSA small business page. It's in this these slides as well. Well, there it is right at the bottom. So this next slide also shows our additional small business technical advisors. And we'll go to the next slide. I think we have about 34 or 35 small business technical advisors across the country. And I think we're at our last slide here. We have a virtual event on the 29th of this month. We hope that you could join us and register at the link that is provided to you there. It is, what is that, next Thursday, next Wednesday? My days are off. But it is a training and matchmaking event specifically geared towards small businesses who are interested in working or getting contracts with GSA. So we really would love to have you join us to learn more about our processes. We know it can be overwhelming, and we try and provide as much information as we can without overwhelming you all at the same time. But if you can make it, we'd love to have you, and we thank you for joining us today. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to Anthony so he can demonstrate some of the tools that we introduced today. Anthony, which one would you like to start with first? I think we started with, let's see. You always like to go into sam.gov first. So do you want to just maybe demonstrate that?
Let's see. Let's do the
GSA
e-library.
Library. Okay. I'll let you go for it. You've got it from here.
Thank you, Enshane. So as Enshane mentioned, the ScheduleZ Library, that's really the portal where you'll be able to find the all your competitors who are already on schedule, the pricing, terms and conditions of the contract, where they're located, their socioeconomic indicator. You also will be able to see the paper-based application to get on schedule. So you'll be able to see all the templates that you need, the price proposal, the commercial sales practice, everything you need to get on the GSA schedules in a paper-based form. The GSA schedules, as Enshane mentioned, is an IDIQ contract, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So it doesn't guarantee you any work, but it makes it easier for government agencies and military installations to utilize their services. A little over 40 billion was done up to GSA schedules this fiscal year. It currently takes about, depending on the specific category that you fall under, there are 12 categories, about 6 to 9 months cradle to grave currently to get on the GSA schedules. So this is the e-library. In the search engine, if you put the service or product that you provide, so if you put IT, it'll do a word search and it'll come up with all the different categories that fall under IT. So you can see that there is only one schedule, multiple word schedule, and then the categories are broken down by NAICS code. And so all of the different IT, from software to hardware, cybersecurity, data conversion, whatever it may be, are listed here. And then if you click on one of these categories, we'll do, let's see. We'll do cloud and related services. You'll see all 345 contractors that are currently on the multiple award schedule for the category 518210C. And then you can, if we wanted to, we could take a look at these, the terms and conditions of the contract, pricing, all of that, so you can sort of see who you're competing against and if what the return on investment might be to getting on schedule. You see their contract number, where they're located, as well as their socioeconomic indicators. So all of that is there for you to sort of take a look and see where you best fit in the GSA schedules world. That's probably what GSA is best known for. So if you're marketing to these different agencies, military installations, and they ask you what your GSA number is, do you have a GSA contract? This is the contracting vehicle that they are speaking about. Okay. If we click on the multiple award schedule, two rectangular boxes will come up. The one on the right-hand side that says contractors, click here to view current solicitation on sam.gov. You click on that. Hyperlinks you over to SAM. And what's going to come up are all the categories, all 12 categories. Give it 1 second to load.
Yeah, it's so massive. It can take a little bit for it to load up there.
And so as you scroll down, you'll see that it'll have all 12 categories. The attachment links. So it'll give you the price proposal, the commercial sales practice, all the templates that you will need, as well as the solicitation with all the terms and conditions. I recommend clicking on the all files, saving it to your computer, putting it in a binder. I like to call it your nighttime reading because I guarantee it'll put you to sleep every night. A lot of terms of FAR regulations, a lot of GSAM, General Services Acquisition Manual, but you want to become familiar with what you're getting your company into. It's a 20-year, it's basically a 20-year contract, 5-year contract with 3 5-year options. Okay, so it gives you all of that information here for you. And like I said, download it, save it to your computer. So that's the GSA Library. If you're interested in getting on the GSA schedule, I highly recommend taking a look at it. There's a wealth of information on that. You can look at your competitors, price list, terms and conditions, as well as downloading the paper-based templates that you will need in order to get on schedule. It'll also hyperlink you over to getting your digital cert so you can start filling out electronically through eOffer. Okay.
Anthony, if I may ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you remind us what we're looking at here on the mass contract here?
So this is the on the SAM.gov website. Once we've gone to the GSA Library, we've identified the companies. We've taken a look at getting who's on schedule already, the price proposal. We've gone to the multiple award schedule. The 2 rectangular boxes says vendors click here. The view current solicitation on SAM.gov. Hyperlinks you over to SAM.gov, and you will see the paper-based templates to get on schedule. So all the terms and conditions, the price proposal, the commercial sales practice, all of that information is there for you. Okay, so if you click on, it's just giving me a hard time loading up all of it so I can scroll through it currently. So the bandwidth may be having some issues at the time, or I'd be able to click on it and kind of give you more in depth of navigating through the website. Okay.
So Anthony, if I wanted to sell to one of the current contract holders, this would be the document that I should be looking at.
If you want to, basically, no. So if you're first, we're taking a look at the e-library, and that is if you wanted to take a look at your competitors and also people you could team with to sell to the different government agencies and military installations. The GSA schedules is a contract that allows you to sell directly to these agencies and military installations and cuts down the paperwork on the back end for these government agencies and military installations. So it basically cuts out time and makes it easier for you to sell to the different agencies.
Thank you.
So the multiple award schedule is that vehicle that you use to get on a contract and allow other vendors to buy, other customers outside of GSA to buy from you. They're just using the GSA platform of the multiple award schedule contract to buy from, like Amazon.
Every agency uses the GSA schedules in some way, shape, or form. Some utilize them quite a bit. Navy, for instance, not a big fan of schedules. Coast Guard uses schedules quite a bit. Homeland Security uses schedules quite a bit. So in doing your market research, that'll determine what tools you need in order to do business with these various agencies and military installations that you're targeting. That's why it's imperative that in doing the market research, you identify those 3 to 5 agencies and understand how they buy and what tools they utilize in their procurement and acquisitions.
Hey, Anthony, my name is me, and I just had a quick question for you. I saw in a previous presentation 8A, and does 8A help in this regards?
8A can help. 8A is through SBA. It's a development tool that is also based on some socioeconomic disadvantage that you have had. It's basically a 8-year, I believe, contract development that you're able to set aside, as well as have competitive 8A contracting arrangements. So on schedule, yes, you are able to do 8A competitive bids on the schedule, but you're not able to do sole sources on schedule.
I see.
I don't know how involved you are in terms of, do you have your 8A, or if that's something you're looking at, but they're two separate contracting vehicles.
I see. Thank you.
So Anthony, this is Leslie. To address Mian's question on 8A,
Yes.
it's a 9-year program.
Okay.
And they made some modifications on it. 4 years as, initial getting started, and then I believe 5 years of sustaining that before you graduate. And I'm glad that Mr. Rice spoke up, because I would like to formally introduce him and recognize him attending today. Mian Rice is with the Port of Seattle, and we're just excited to have you here, Mr. Rice. And maybe if we could just interject in a moment, and you can just kind of give us a real quick overview of your position within the Port of Seattle.
You're on mute.
Sure, you put me on a spot right now. So hello, everybody. My name is Mian Rice. I am the Director of the Diversity and Contracting Department for the Port of Seattle, which handles a lot of the federal disadvantaged business efforts, women minority participation, goal setting. We're really trying to push hard on diversity and trying to improve on our contract utilization from goods and services to construction and consulting and all of the categories. And this here, where we are here today for this advanced PortGen and our partnerships with USDOT, SBDRC, and everybody else, and PTAC, is just to really see what we can do about enhancing everybody's level of participation when it comes down to government contracting. And so my questions, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak, but I'm just really excited that all the presenters here are spitting out all kinds of knowledge, and it's really cool. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'm gonna sign off right here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Okay, Anthony, we'll give the mic back to you and let you continue on.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony, can you think of how about the forecasting tool? You think they might be able to? That might be a good thing to search.
You want? We could take a look at the forecast. We can do the sales query. I'm not sure which one.
I think
if the
I don't know if the audience, those are our primary ones. We also have dynamic small business search. I've noticed I've had to show quite a few vendors a dynamic small business search tool as well. Maybe towards the end, if we can get through these main tools that I introduced.
I mean, we can look at the USAspending.gov.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that.
That's used quite a bit for market research. It's one of the basic sort of in government. One of the two, I consider one of the two best for doing the market research in the government sector, USA Spending at PDS. And so, as you can see, it sort of shows you how we're spending our the COVID response. As you scroll down, we want to be as transparent as possible. These are your tax dollars, our tax dollars at work. You can look at all the COVID spending data. You can slice and dice it in a million different ways, see exactly down to the micro level, how it's being spent, the disaster emergency code, all the codes are listed there for you. It gives you the prime award. There will be some subcontract now will be put up here shortly, I believe. So really want to show that, where all the COVID money is being spent, how it's being spent, the award summary. As we scroll down on the USAspending.gov website, gives you you can look at a big picture view if you want to see a specific agency, how they're selling, or an entire federal government, how much money is being spent on vehicle technology, wildfires, advanced manufacturing, whatever it may be. You can sort of do those broad-based fields. And then as we scroll down, if you want to do a real targeted approach, which I find most useful for most small businesses, you can select an advanced search. And then it gives you all of the attributes and metrics that you want to use if you only want to look for fiscal year 21, fiscal year 20, award type. You can do it by grants if you so choose. It gives you specific agencies. So if you want to look only for GSA or only for Homeland Security, it gives you the location. If you only want to look for in Washington State, in California, whatever it may be, you can do it by specific location, by zip code, the recipient type, the award amount. If you only want to look at awards under a certain dollar threshold, under 750,000, under 500,000, whatever it may be, you can break it down. You can do it again by disaster, the disaster emergency fund code. You can do it by NAICS code, product service code, all the basic attributes, metrics that Enshane was referencing in her presentation. And then you can do it also by set aside. So if you want to look only for 8A, if you only want to look for women-owned, if you only want to look for service disabled veteran, you can look for all of those awards that have happened. So you can see exactly how the agencies you're targeting buy what they sell. And are they small business friendly? Are they hub zone friendly? Do they do a lot of work with 8A? So you can see all of that. It's all very pertinent information in doing your market research. So you know you really have a focused marketing plan in place for the federal sector. So you're not just throwing darts at the wall, but you understand how these agencies buy, what they buy, when they buy, how they buy, and what tools you need in order to do business with them. So it really is essential. And as we all know, we're all data driven now. Everything's data. And these websites really help you in having that focused marketing plan. So that's sort of USA spending in a nutshell. Kind of gives you a nice, easy boxes to click. You can download it, save it to your computer, download an Excel spreadsheet, PDF, slice and dice it, any way you so choose. Okay. And then,
all right. And then maybe one more. I think we still got about 20, 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes, yes.
Okay.
So if there's any other, let's see, which I have the schedule sales query. This is part of the GSA schedule. So if you want to get real in depth in terms of the GSA schedules and finding out, doing some of the market research in terms of the GSA schedules, how much companies that are currently on schedule are doing, utilizing their GSA schedule contract, what locations are doing quite a bit on the GSA schedules. You can build specific reports on that, the SSQ report builder. You can look at sales again by geography. You can look at sales trends. What schedules are doing a lot more? Is the IT category doing quite a bit? Is professional services? What are the growing sectors of the GSA schedule contract? The one most vendors utilize, obviously, is the vendor analysis module. And this is what they utilize also for the readiness toolbox assessment, which is a mandatory part of the GSA schedules. So if you click on the vendor analysis module, you can look for specific SINs. We can look by NAICS code, or which are the categories now. You then click on all that apply. We don't want to do all of them. We can look for, let's do 541611, which is the out of the professional schedules. I believe it's marketing and integrated marketing solutions, advertising solutions. Let's see, 1 second. You then click on it, you click apply. As you scroll over, you then click on the next button. You then can pick by geography. We'll just do them all. And then it gives you a nice little map of who's doing what in this. It's for 5161. These are the only 2 zip codes, I guess, that are doing work in that field. You then click on next. You can click on business size. You can, if you only want to see hub zone contractors, veteran owned, service disabled. Again, many of the same attributes and metrics that we were looking at on usaspending.gov. You then click next again. You've completed the wizard, and then you download, and it will show you the schedules, number of vendors, the dollars, who currently are the top competitors on that specific NAICS. And then you can click on the different charts to see how it works out. So it's quite useful in terms of seeing what the return on investment is utilizing the GSA schedule contract. What the metrics, it really shows you, gives you nice little charts on it, and it gives you specific contracts, the specific companies, and how they've done and what their trajectory has been over the last 3 to 5 years. So it's a really useful tool in doing that market research in terms of the GSA schedules.
And you'll
Okay.
get familiar with those contract numbers, you know, the GS 00F29, you know, as you start to look in eLibrary and you see all the contract names, you start to get familiar with those. So don't be intimidated by all the strange looking numbers that are there.
But it can be quite useful. You want to become familiar with it. This is it. Once you decide to get on schedule, it does take quite a bit of time and effort. So you want to make sure that that return on investment's worthwhile. Okay.
Enshane or Anthony, earlier you mentioned about make sure you don't use just the generic boilerplates on capability statements. Would it be worthwhile to create specific capability statements for each line of my business?
I would say, so when we speak of boilerplate, a lot of times, just from my experience in GSA in this role, we will get the Salesforce type, you know, emails, and there's a capability statement that's just plastered, you know, in the email. What we were speaking more towards was the sources sought, synopses, things like that, where there's specific information that's being asked for. So instead of just sending that boilerplate capability statement, it's really about narrowing down what your capabilities are to reflect what they're asking for in those types of, they're soliciting for information, not for a particular buy, but just for information or to see what the market looks like. So if there are particular questions that are asked in those synopses, to really target and answer those questions exactly how they're asked. So while you can have your regular boilerplate Salesforce capability statement, it's really important that when you see those sources sought notices go out, that you really answer the questions as they're posted in sam.gov.
Yeah, it's really important to customize the when you market to the different agencies. I know our building managers like to see relevant experience as they're going through it. So really, I know most agencies want to see that you put a little bit of effort, that you've cut, that you kind of, you do have, we understand you have the boilerplate capability statement, but that you customize it to our needs.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you wanted to continue, if there are more questions.
Yeah, if we have any more questions from anybody.
All right, I'll ask a question again. So this is me and again. So what has been the biggest challenge that businesses have in terms of working with GSA? And is it doing the markability? Is it just signing up? What has been the biggest pitfall that you've seen, and how do you avoid that?
Anthony, I'll let you answer that. You're the veteran. I can give my 2 cents, but
That's a great question.
So
Honestly,
you asked for questions, and here we go.
no, that's a great question. What's been honestly, the biggest complaints you're going to get from most vendors is the length of time and the amount of bureaucratic paperwork it takes to get on schedule. It can't, you're going to hear horror stories of it took, a year, 2 years to get on schedule. It's, it can be anywhere from 150 to 300 pages, depending on the specific category you fall under. Most of it is boilerplate information, but to a new business or a business that hasn't done federal work before, it can be quite cumbersome and overwhelming to them. So it's something that really, it's better than it used to be, but it's still not where it's not in language that in layman's terms that's necessarily easiest to pick up. It does take quite a bit of time and effort and working in the federal sector to understand getting on schedule. But that's what the PTACs, SBDCs really are there for, and they've gotten more people through schedules than I can say. So really, those PTACs, the SBDCs, utilize them, maximize them. They're experts in getting people through schedules, and even if getting on schedule is right for that company at that time.
Great, thank you.
So if I could piggyback on that a little bit, probably one of the major pitfalls for small businesses looking to get on a GSA schedule is all of the scammers that are out there and all the promises that they make. And, the small companies are generally pretty naive about this whole process. And so they are really victimized. It's like, if you pay us $8,000, we'll get this done in a month and you'll be on the schedule by in 3 months and you'll be good to go. And that's not always the way that it really plays out.
I literally got an email from a small business this morning, almost panicking because that's exactly what they were told. And they were saying, do I have to pay this? Is this my only option? Can you please help? And so that is what we do. We try and give them the links and the information that's on our websites and the tools, but navigating that can be really daunting. And so we really suggest that they sit in on the trainings, that they link up with the PTACs and sit in on the workshops. And not everybody has, the time, they're running businesses, but it's so important to have that face-to-face. We do a lot of one-on-one counseling, but at the end of the day, we always mention the PTACs and the other organizations, our industry partners, to help really walk them through the process.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've heard 5, 10, 15, 25,000.
Yeah.
These businesses have put up and got nothing in return.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, and they give them just enough breadcrumbs to sort of bring them along. And they string it out for 2-3 years, and then there's very little that can be done with these scammers. A lot of times, as was mentioned, it's out of Florida, South Carolina, GSA in the name, and they think GSA is charging them to get. I've had calls where they've said GSA told me to pay this and to get me on schedule. It's been over 1.5 years. What's going on?
Yeah.
And there's just a disconnect there. And so, yeah, those are some red flags that go up. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Probably is.
If I could chime in, working with PTAC back in 13 and 14, it's like there's an actual scam center operating out of St. Petersburg, Florida. And if you were on sam.gov or a DSBS .sba.gov, they just got your information instantly and started soliciting you as though you had received a contract or you had a penalty due or you're at risk of losing this, that, or the other thing. And it just came up every time. St. Petersburg, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yep.
So at that point, we just started telling clients that if it's from St. Petersburg, anything from St. Petersburg, just call us. Just start there. And I'm assuming PTAC still runs somewhat the same way.
Well, and the reality is that those companies are shapeshifters. Yeah, so once they have caught the attention of the Attorney General, then they close that company and they open another one, different name, and just keep on moving on. So it's really disconcerting for these small businesses who do not have the financial resources to undergo this through these scammers. Whereas if they connect with PTAC and GSA or SBDC or whomever, we can get them the training, or we can point them to some legitimate resources and get them where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony or Enshane, I had another quick question about when you were talking about NAICS codes and PSCs. What about FSC codes? Do you use that at all?
Yeah, so PSC codes, product service codes, that's more in the commercial arena. I would say, and Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, when I was in services, they were FSC codes. So for anything that qualifies as a service, it would apply to the FSC code. Okay. Is that right in the schedule as well, Anthony?
Yes, I mean, there's not a direct correlation from schedules to FSC. There's very limited use in terms of for the vendors utilizing GSA with FSC codes.
Okay, thank you. And one last question that I had, can you give us a real quick overview as to GSA's set aside goals over the last few years on what specific set aside are you really needing to find in order to meet your goals?
Me or you? Hello, I'll take it since I've been here a while. Hub zone is usually the hardest that we have to meet.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're continuously doing. We have capability briefings that we're doing with our PBS. We do SDVOSB, service disabled veteran. We do 8A, we do hub zone. We do them on a quarterly basis, but hub zone consistently has been I think most federal agencies, that's the target that we have, because there has been quite a few that it's shifted. There's been the ones that have the hub zone locations have moved. So there has been some issues in terms of meeting the hub zone goal, although we are meeting it this year, I believe, and last year. But historically, that has been the hardest socioeconomic category for us to meet.
And that's pretty standard for what, the last decade for all federal agencies?
Pretty much. SDVOSB was for a while, along with hub zone, but as SDVOSB has become more, we're utilizing it more and more. It's hub zone has been the past 5 to 7 years at least has been the hardest for us to meet.
So, Mian, in regards to hub zone on the west side of the state, there are counties like Clallam County, Jefferson County that are full hub zones. And then if you look up and down I-5 corridor, actually this morning I was looking at a client who is down in the Tacoma area. And, there's pockets all along I-5. And, when I was talking to him about the hub zone, he said, well, most of his employees live, like Tacoma or Fife or Parkland or Puyallup. And, it's a little bit hit or miss as to, getting the exact address for the hub zone. But yeah, hub zone is like the best kept secret for getting the word out to everybody. And, we really try to emphasize that for small businesses that may not qualify as service disabled vet or woman owned or 8A, minority owned. Hub zone is strictly geography. So, that would be a big win for everybody.
And I think particularly with even like Tacoma, where I am, I'm on tribal land, and a lot of that is also considered, hub zone qualifiers. So, a lot of folks just don't know. And, or if they qualify for another socioeconomic category, they just go for that, not realizing that they could check both boxes. And sometimes they think it takes too much time and effort and money to go for more boxes, especially with hub zone, because you don't see a lot of hub zone set asides. There's still the idea in contracting that it's too risky, not realizing that a lot of these companies, especially ANCs and things like that, they also qualify as hub zones as well.
Well, and that's exactly right what you were just saying about the applying for more than one. When you're getting started, what I recommend for my clients is that they have a digital vault that has all their financials, the personal financial statements, everything, that the corporate information, and then moving from, say, a service disabled vet certification through the VA, and then doing a hub zone. They ask the same questions on the same materials, and it's just a matter of, pulling the right one and sending it out. So, and I know we're getting pretty close to transitioning here, but I wanted to ask Enshane and Anthony, in regards to service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Years ago, the set aside used to be for veteran-owned small business and or service disabled veteran-owned small business, but now it's service disabled veteran-owned small business only. And so, and the certification for that has historically come from the Veterans Administration, but that is transitioning to the Small Business Administration. And the only one that mandates the SDVOSB certification is the VA. So what is your status as GSA in regards to veterans?
I haven't heard about that update. When I worked at the VA, I remember when that all changed as far as the Kingdomware decision that, forced contracting to only focus on SDVOSBs and VOSBs for, pretty much everything. And that's how those numbers went up. But as far as GSA, and particularly in my experience in the relationship with SBA, there's no precedent, there's no hierarchy as far as who we're looking at in terms of socioeconomic programs right now. Hub zone is always underrepresented, but in terms of SDVOSB and VOSB, it's at 3% right now. And so unless there's an initiative coming out of central office for us to get those numbers up, I haven't heard anything different. And honestly, if you've got 5% in SDVOSB, then it should be 5% in your numbers for VOSB, right? It shouldn't be SDVOSB more than VOSB, because you're not checking the right boxes then.
Yeah.
So
in regards to that, so you accept self-certified as opposed to VA certified for
Yes.
GSA?
Yes.
The only federal agency is the VA that except is the VEPIS
Yeah.
registration.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
real quick, I got one last question. I apologize. So this is a naive question, and I want to say this. I'm already admitting it. So if we're on the US DOT side, they have a small business program where you have to be federally certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise person. A lot of times beyond a product. There might be some hybrid in there where you can be a small business. But GSA, I'm hearing a little bit different slant to it. So why the difference?
Well, we have our separate supplements
Yeah.
next to the FAR. So the FAR
Yep.
is, that is the base.
Yep.
And then you have to go into the supplemental regulations that might change the requirements just a little bit.
Huh.
So without knowing what the Department of Transportation supplement might be dictating as far as verifying certain types of regulation, I personally don't know if I could speak to that. Anthony, do you have a take on why?
I'm not sure what. So you said DOT has cert specific.
You have to be federally
regulations?
certified. You have to be federally certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise through the Office of One Minority Business or any UCP within the states in the United States.
So
then you have GSA, where you have another federal agency that has something a little more broader in the scope, but still under the federal umbrella. So why is it different?
It's because DOT. So I know DOT. They work directly with the states and with other quasi-government organizations, and the way the money is, it's a different sort of thing because we're spending the GSA usually is spending our money. Those are the goals we're talking about. So the money, our federal, are our specific goals. DOT with the state of California has different regulations than DOT, I believe, with the state of Seattle. And I think it's part of with the state-run agencies. I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay.
I can jump in a little bit. Hi, I joined a little late. I'm sorry. My name is Amal Jury. I'm from OMWBE. Mian, I think it's, again, it's the money, but then we've got agreements. The UCPs have the agreements with USDOT on how they're going to manage the programs. And then there's very specific rules around goal setting. And so they do all of that with WashDOT. We've got a weird system in Washington. You know that.
Yep.
Yeah, you know that. So I have always been told that the where the funding is coming from is why there's so much rules and requirements, because the transportation legislation has to go through all of their rulemaking processes. And that's where, if they were specific around, okay, we've noticed the disparities in transportation, and this is how we decide we want to fix it. The USDOT thought the box was this big, but then they didn't set any rules around it. So now we have companies doing all kinds of non-transportation stuff, but really the money is about transportation dollars. And they've got the purview of how they want to make those rules.
Okay, because I was wondering, because under the DOT, you can become we'll just say airport concessionaires, disadvantaged business, which taxis, limousines, drivers, you got concessionaires and so forth that also can operate and sell goods and services to GSA under that DV umbrella. So I'm wondering, why is it not together?
The ACDBE is a totally separate certification, and it is really specific to selling goods or services to the traveling public. And because of the cost associated with getting into the airport, they lifted the cap on the size. And USDOT made a decision to go with the size standards of SBA, but then put an overall program cap limit that was lower than some of those SBA sizes. So they got real narrow with their rulemaking.
Yeah. Okay.
So therein lies regulations.
Not a
and
great
then the
answer.
supplements that go along with it. It just depending on the agency, they could be completely different.
Yeah. Don't worry, because I asked the same thing about the like the Tiger grants. Still, that's environmental. They get, you know, certain dollars, and it's different from GSA, different from USDOT, and it's different from what we're talking about here today. So that's why I'm trying to figure out, saying, why is it so different? But it's an unfair question. I just thought I figured I'd throw it out to you guys to see if there was an answer somewhere.
Well, thank you, man, for the great question, and thank Anthony and Enshane for coming today and spending time with us. It's always good to, you know, get your information directly instead of third party, and we appreciate both of you coming today. And so with that, I think we'll take a little mini break, and then we'll move on to Amal, who's going to talk to us on OMWBE certification in Washington State. So thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Enshane. We'll be in touch.
Nice meeting you all. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye,
Take
guys.
care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ta-da.
Ta-da! Okay, and I'm looking half at my screen and half at your screen and all kinds of things. So certification 101, it has the wrong date. I apologize. I'm a few days behind on that one. We're going to be talking a little bit about OMWBE, the mission, what certification is, what our types of certification are, why get certified, and what the eligibility criteria are. We'll talk a little bit about the certified firm directory, and then there'll be time for questions. I do talk quite quickly, so please raise your hand, tell me to slow down. And if there's something that you'd like to talk about as we're on the slide, please raise your hand, go ahead. We don't need to wait for the Q&A portion at all. Happy to talk about this. I do really get enthusiastic about certification. It makes me happy. So OMWBE, if you haven't heard this before, we've been around since the 80s, the fabulous 80s, trying to help women, minority, other underrepresented community businesses access state contracting procurement opportunities. We are really interested in offering solutions and providing seamless experiences with our office. We recently hired internally an individual on my team who's going to be directly focused on the customer service experience that people have when they work with OMWBE, specifically around certification. So I'm looking forward to you may see some really great changes in the near future on how we access certification, how people work with our agency, things like that. And we're always trying to improve that experience. Our people are our most valuable resource. We have a diversity of backgrounds, skills, and ideas. OMWBE is growing like crazy, like a weed, but in a good way, like a flower. We are getting more and more people, which is awesome, and developing our bench of expertise. We recently looked at our mission, vision, values, and purpose. And so this is our vision. Our purpose here is to promote equity and how Washington State spends its resources in the private sector, eliminating barriers to equitable participation, and in public spending and procurement. We are here to create and implement programs that provide the maximum opportunity. So we don't only have certification, we have other programs too, and other programmatic goals that are written into the statutes and that are written into WACs and that are always coming up in legislation to provide our businesses in Washington with additional opportunities. And that is where we're we're going. We're creating additional programs. We're reinforcing the programs that we already do have, and just hoping to move the needle in the right direction. Looks like there's someone waiting. I'm just going to hit admit. We are dedicated to eliminating systematic and institutional oppression in contracting in the state of Washington. We drive innovation. We are diversifying overall economic growth, and we are empowering public entities to recognize the value of minority, women, and underrepresented community-owned businesses. That, I think, it's a really big vision, but we are moving towards those goals every day. We are really focused on ensuring that the state agencies understand OMWBE's role, understand how the Certified Community Directory can impact their spend, working on their inclusion plans on a regular basis, annually, talking to them, developing toolkits through the Business Diversity Subcabinet, which I'll talk about a little later, and really trying to promote use of these certified businesses, because that is just going to continue to move the needle towards equity in public contracting. We have 4 pillars at OMWBE: certification, which we'll do a deep dive into. We have supplier diversity. This is our focus here in supplier diversity, is to report the annual spend on the state agencies spend dollars with certified firms. So in the last year, this team met with 63 state agencies, 8 higher ed institutions, and 22 prime contractors on their inclusion plans and best practices. So working with agencies who had maybe one line in their inclusion plan of, we will do better, to, that's not a great plan. It's a great idea, but it's not a plan. So how can we help those agencies spend more? Do we unbundle contracts? Do we look at other opportunities, contracting opportunities? Is that agency thinking about a new tech system, a new a strategic plan? Do we onboard, do we use change management firms from our directory? How can we best help these agencies spend their money, not just on big public works, not just on transportation dollars, because that's where people kind of tend to think, but where are some other opportunities? Our linked deposit program, loan program, is another vehicle for access to capital for our certified state businesses. There are 11 participating banks. There's about $175 million available in loans for qualified businesses. They can get a reduced interest rate up to 2% on their business loans. So the bank maintains the loan, and the bank has the terms of the loan, but overall the interest rate can be reduced by up to 2%. We also have the governor's subcabinet on business diversity. So this would be the big 6 agencies who spend the most money in state government, who have come together to seek big picture solutions, figure out some long-term sustainable goals, support and educate the state agencies and public on how to improve contracting with certified firms. And they have come up with those toolkits. They have come up with some best practices to use, and they continue to seek improvement in these areas overall, and not just within OMWBE, but within their own agencies. Any questions on that so far?
Amal, I have a question. Sure. In regards to the supplier diversity section. Yes. on that slide. So can you give us, can you name names on the 22 primes? That
I don't have those names. I can connect you to Timolim Abram, who is our supplier diversity program manager, assistant director. She has been working on setting up for the next round. So we are always interested in talking to primes and always interested in talking to additional, it's not just to meet with state agencies in higher ed. We are required to by statute with those entities, and we report on them. other entities who might benefit from our assistance with this area, we're always happy to talk to and work with. But I don't know which 22 they are.
Okay, I would appreciate that list.
Yes.
Washington PTAC, tries to connect the primes with, our small businesses. And, if we had the who's who, that would help a lot to, for us to kind of do some networking events or matchmaking or whatever to assist them and, help meet the needs of the small businesses also. So thank you on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the other thing is on the governor's sub cabinet.
Mhm.
So did you say that those are agency filled?
Yes.
Or do they include private sector?
Those are agencies. At this time, it's agencies.
Okay, so like universities and forests and natural resources and everybody like that.
Right. So the subcab and supplier diversity, part of what OMWBE is working on is to update how we get this information, how we gather information from state agencies and how things are reported. So we're working with the largest 6 agencies, those who spend the most, to establish some new reporting requirements, to establish these best practices, to establish a support system to then roll out enterprise-wide, statewide, all the agencies. The goal is to have everyone use the same system, use the same reporting, have the same kind of basis so that we all have access to the same data, and we can show either the changes that OMWBE is making and that the state is making are moving the needle positively, meaning we're spending more, or if it's not doing anything, is that potentially one step closer to a mandatory goal system on state contracts versus the voluntary goal system. So it's all sort of stepping stones. And those 6 agencies, I'm going to screw this up and I shouldn't, I'm sorry. It's DES, Department of Commerce, DSHS, L&I, and one more. I apologize. 2 more. I can't remember those 2. Us. And maybe OFM, but they might be too small for that. I'm not positive. Oh, sorry, WashDOT, the biggest.
Yeah, WashDOT.
WashDOT is up there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I got a question real
Yeah.
quick. The 175 million, that's awesome. So I didn't know the dollar amount. That's something new to me. So the 175 million under the linked deposit loan program, is that a renewable on an annual basis, or is it just one big lump sum until it goes out and then it renews later?
So it is it's like the VA has a similar program. So they've got this money is available because it's a program between OMWBE and Treasury, and Treasury passes on those savings, right? And so they're able to offer that low interest rate. And through that, we now have this bulk of money that these banks can utilize to give a loan, right? I don't know if it's an annual renewal but I think the more firms who have loans, the smaller that dollar value gets. So eventually, if you have enough firms who have a loan, you would end up almost with a waiting list, and you'd be waiting for firms to the term of that loan to come due, and whatever that money was, it goes back, like that equivalent goes back into the pot. So if I had $1 million loan comes due next year, you're waiting in line, you could get the next $1 million loan.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. We are hoping to do a lot more with the linked deposit program. I don't think 11 institutions, and we have 1 credit union, which is awesome. And we're trying to increase that pool, increase the demand, increase the the access to it and work with the banks so that they are more knowledgeable about how to utilize this, because we do get some banks are like all over it and some are like, oh, right, we have this program. What do we do? So that's an opportunity for education right there.
A lot of our small business that we're assisting at SBTRC and also at Minority Business Development Agency is that they have cash flow problems. So is that something that I know it's just access to capital, but is this a collateral based loan or?
I believe it is. It is the banks will be the ones who have the overall regulation around it. So you have to meet the bank's criteria as well as being certified. So it's not just I walk in, I walk out. So access to capital is possibly a little bit of a misnomer. It is an access to a reduced interest rate loan, but it is for business needs. But unlike, like the PPP programs, like the payroll ones that we just had, that there's some forgiveness around, this is not going to be like that. This is going to be subject to the terms of that the bank puts in place. So OMWBE doesn't have control over those terms. We are a facilitator.
And is there any basic requirements? Do firms have to have existing certification in place?
They do. They need to be state certified and they need to maintain that state certification. So if they are state certified and in 3 years they don't do their renewal and we remove them from the directory, they will lose the reduced interest rate and they got to reapply. So it behooves firms to stay up on that renewal.
So if you lose your certification, does that mean that your entire amount of a loan is due?
I don't think so. Again, that's going to be subject to the terms of the loan with the financial institution. You will absolutely lose the reduced interest rate. And then it'll probably default to whatever their prime point system is.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So what is certification? OMWBE certifies small businesses that are owned and controlled. Controlled is a key word that we'll talk about, by minorities, women, and other disadvantaged individuals. I am going to take a second, just a caveat. It's 3 o'clock. My kid is probably going to run down here and wave at the camera because he is completely into that stuff and thinks he knows everybody. So I apologize ahead of time. I'll just smile. He'll wave. He's very cute. Leslie saw him the last time we met, and we'll get him out of here. And a cat tends to walk across the screen too. Anyway, so we certify those businesses in order to increase contracting opportunities with state and local governments. So we have 2 programs that we operate. We have the federal certification program and the state certification program. And within those 2 programs, we have several different certification types. So on the federal side, as we were talking about a little earlier, there's the disadvantaged business enterprise, the airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise, and the small business enterprise. This SBE is specific to the USDOT federal program, not the SBE that you would potentially find under 8A or SBA or any of those. This is DOT's SBE through Washington. On the state side, we have minority, women, combination, and the SEDBE, which is the individual showing. Both the state and federal have requirements for group membership. And they each have the opportunity for an individual to provide information to suggest that although they may not be a member of a disadvantaged group, a presumptive disadvantaged group, they are chronically and socially, economically disadvantaged in the US and therefore can show that they should be certified. The benefits to certification, if you're thinking that your firm is going to work with governments, with state contracts, with school districts, public universities, local governments, anything like that, going to bid on any transportation funded projects, any colleges that have supplier diversity goals, and then we have private companies that also use our directory to fulfill supplier diversity goals. This is why we get certified. You are now visible, you are searchable, you are able to bid, and our agency is here to help you through that process. Eligibility, these are some of the high level points of eligibility. These are the big ticket criteria items. You have to be for profit. We don't do nonprofit certifications. You must have gross receipts for the last 3 years average. So I take an average of the last 3 years of under 23.98 million. That number is actually slightly outdated. It is 26.32. I apologize. That's a typo I missed. So it's 26 million, just a little over 26. And you have to be licensed to do business in Washington State. The owner of that business has to be a woman or a member of another presumptive minority group. They have to own at least 51% of that business and show their financial investment, either capital or expertise. If it's pure expertise, there's still a financial component to that. And the most important piece that I stress is the next two: need to have knowledge and experience in the field that you're seeking certification, and that you have control over the business. It is not enough for me to say I own 51% of a construction firm when I've had my entire career as a lawyer. I don't know a hammer from a nail. I have no business owning a construction firm. I cannot control it. I have to rely upon other people, or because I just said I own 51%, but my husband is the one who knows how to do everything. That is not control. I might have the documents that say I have 51%, but at OMWBE, we're looking at your experience and we are looking at your ability to control that business. You have to be an independent business. We cannot certify a firm that says I'm a construction firm, but all my contracts are with Sellon, and that's who I do business with no matter what. And if Sellon went away, I would go away and I wouldn't be a business anymore. That would not be considered an independent business. And we have to be economically disadvantaged with a personal net worth of under 1.32 million. Any questions on certification eligibility?
Okay,
I got a quick question for you.
Yep.
How
Go
did you
ahead.
handle verifying of business during the pandemic?
Oh, so, okay. So this is where we get into the depth of certification. So on the federal side, we are required to do an on-site visit. And on the state side, we can do an on-site if we need to maybe get some additional information, or we have some concerns about the business, or we just want to know what's going on. We did everything virtually. We used Zoom, we did whatever it took to get in front of business owners. We had them walk around with cameras. We had them take pictures of their stuff. We got really good at figuring out, we are good at figuring out what are the businesses that might have more concerns. On the federal program, as I said earlier, we can't limit the types of business that come in and apply for certification. But WashDOT and USDOT are going to issue awards to businesses that are eligible to work on transportation projects. So not necessarily interested in whether or not an ice cream store has federal certification, but I can't stop that firm from coming in and being certified if that's what they want to do. So with the ice cream stores, it was less challenging to do an on-site visit because I'm not concerned that there's a fraudulent flavor happening, right? I'm concerned with the transportation, construction, trucking, those kind of things. I don't want it. I can't treat those industries totally differently when I'm looking at them, but I do pay a lot of attention to how these businesses are operated, because it is important for us to ensure that they are owned and controlled by minority women, disadvantaged business. Here he comes. Hi, can you just, I'm gonna call. Okay. Say hi. Okay, thanks. Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay, so so we did a lot of work to try and keep businesses, sorry, Oliver. It actually helped. It helped us get through more firms because we were able to schedule on-sites more efficiently than having to drive and travel to places. And I think we're going to continue to do some blend of that in the future. I have 3 team members in Oliver, seriously, in Eastern Washington, and I have Northern Seattle area and Tacoma, and so we split up the on-sites based on region typically, and we just try and find some efficiencies through that. Could you just give me 1 second? I will. Thank you. He's really sweet if anyone wants a 7-year-old. Bye. Goodbye. Go. I forgot what the next question was.
Well, actually, I wanted to make a comment for any of our participants today that the certification eligibility at the state level does not include if you were certified at the federal level, because they don't intermingle other than that little teeny section that you talked about earlier with, the federal certifications, the DBEs and the ACDBEs and anyway, but if you are woman-owned, economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, veteran-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, 8A or hub zone certified, that does not pre-qualify you for any of this information or for any eligibility, because you have to do everything. You have to do all the application and everything totally different than what you do at the federal level.
Right. So USDOT has developed their own application and personal net worth form that we have to use. And then we have developed a state application process that our rules mirror the federal rules as much as possible, so that we are using similar analysis, similar requests for information. The biggest differences on the state side is that we do not require citizenship and we do not require visual identification of group membership. Whereas on the federal side, those are requirements.
Okay, thank you. One last question on this slide. When you address the independently perform the services line. So talk to us about affiliation and what delineates what's acceptable and what's not acceptable on being affiliated.
Sure. So with the way that we look at affiliates, we tend to see affiliation in the personal net worth realm more often than affiliation in types of business, like the actual connection between the work that's being done. So if I own a business that I'm getting certified and I own another business that's not being certified, those would be considered affiliated through the common ownership, and I would be putting the value of the second business on my own personal net worth. I would be counting that. We also look at it from a size standard. So if you are affiliated businesses and the gross receipts can be combined for that 23 million cap, 26 million cap. When we look at affiliation and independence, we're really, what we typically see, not always, is like an LLC for real property plus the certified business that's the construction zone, right? And they are a construction firm and they own a garage or a warehouse. And so that's not going to give me an independence concern. Where I'm looking at is whether or not there's a non-disadvantaged business that is influencing the firm that's trying to get certified to the point where that business cannot operate without them. And it's really specific. It says independent from a non-disadvantaged business. And so I'm looking at, is there a common ownership with those non-disadvantaged? Did they used to work for each other? Are all the certified businesses contracts with this one firm only? Why is that with the only one firm? Are they limited that they can't contract with anybody else? Is there an agreement that says this certified business will only perform construction work for selling? That would be a problem from an independence perspective. And affiliation is looked at more along the lines of the personal net worth and the size.
Okay, so what if, well, I have a client that there's two females that work for a large construction company and they have employee stock options.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to leave that company and start their own company.
Mm-hmm.
But if they start their own company, they cannot share office space or utilities or, anything like that.
Correct.
Because with the employee stock option, I don't know what the terms are on it, but, I believe if they leave, one of two things would happen. They would be paid out on their stock, or maybe they retain their stock, later on. So anyway, it just seems kind of like a bugaboo.
A little bit, but not necessarily insurmountable. Because a lot of it would, we see people leave one business and start their own independent firm. We see people stay at their jobs and start a firm and have a non-compete clause or an agreement in place that they won't contract with each other or things like that. And that can be sufficient. Some kind of firewall, some kind of document that says, yes, I understand, Amal's going to leave and form her own business doing a similar thing, but we're not going to contract with her. And she's not allowed to contract with, these clients. I mean, that's pretty restrictive, but, something like that.
So this time, this is really my last question. On the federal side, when you seek certifications, they want 2 years worth of financials. Back in the day when they first started the woman-owned small business and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, you could start a business today and they did not have that criteria for having to be in business for a couple of years. So what's the status with OMWBE?
We do not have that. Neither the DBE program nor the state program allows us to deny certification on the basis that it is a new business.
Okay.
We've never been able to do that. What we want to know is that the business was started with your own funds or your own expertise. And that could be anything from, like, I started a consulting firm yesterday and I transferred ownership of my computer and I have a receipt for the $50 I spent at the Secretary of State's office setting up this business. That's sufficient capital contribution. That's the investment, right? Or I bought a business for $200,000 with $60,000 down payment, but it's an earnout agreement, meaning I'm going to pay back over the earnings of the business. That's a legal vehicle. If I get an unsecured promissory note from my mom saying, I've given Amal $200,000 to buy this business, she doesn't have to pay me back, that's not going to be considered enough because that's in the rules specifically. So it doesn't matter when you started the business, it's sort of more important how and where the money came from.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we? Where am I? So to start applications, everything is online, everything is electronic. We use B2G now as our vendor of choice for certification. So everything is done through their portal. You can find it at omwbe.wa.gov and you start or renew a certification. So for every, if you're state certified, you have to renew every 3 years. If you're federally certified, you have to renew every 1 year. And renew is sort of a catch-all term. It's just an update, just to say that nothing has changed in your business. And here's my most recent tax return so you can see how large we are. And then sometimes we may ask for an updated personal net worth statement if the one we received prior or with the original application indicates that the individual might be close to that $1.32 million line, or if they own a lot of property, things like that. You can do a state or a federal certification, one or the other, or you can do both. If you want to do both, start with the federal and then say yes to question number 1, which says, do you wish to also do state certification? And you say yes, and then we take care of it. We require a lot of documentation. This is some of the documents that we ask for. So there's an affidavit of certification that's available. Some of these are, most of them that we've created or that USDOT have created are available for download within the application. The rest you're going to have to provide to us. So we need personal and business tax returns for the last 3 years. We need the personal net worth statement. We need any formation or operating documents, LLC agreements, articles of incorporation, things like that. We need resumes. We need proof of initial investment. Like I said, this could be a copy of a canceled check. This could be a credit card statement. This could be a purchase and sale agreement for a business. If an individual doesn't have this information and the business was started more than 3 years ago, we can typically work with them to get a capital statement where they say, look, I started this business in 1999. I had 20 bucks and a prayer and I figured it out and now I'm here. I clearly own this business. I've been doing it for a long time and we'll figure out how to move forward with that. We ask for a list of equipment to ensure that not only is the business going to be able to perform the work, but also that can go to independents like we were talking about earlier, Leslie. So if a contracting business requires gets all its equipment from another business that doesn't do leasing on a regular basis, like that's not their business model, but they've leased equipment, we're going to look into that relationship and see what's going on. We also ask about community property, because this is Washington, community property state. The initial investment, we can sometimes see that a business was started with joint funds from spouses. That can require additional documentation, either a separate property agreement, or we have a relinquishment or non-participation form that says, we understand that this money came from a joint account, but the business is mine. My husband relinquishes his interest in that business or the interest in the money that we put in, and he has no ownership. So that's a little bit sensitive sometimes. People don't quite understand that because of Washington, we are treating it like it's a combined 50-50. And so sometimes we have to ask for additional information. It takes about 60 days for state certification to be processed from start to finish, and 90 days for the federal certification. These can go faster or slower depending on how helpful and how responsive applicants are to our questions, because the analyst will go through the documents and say, look, I have some questions about this. I see that your operating agreement says that you both put in the same amount of money, but one of you owns 51%. How did you get there? Like, what does that mean? Or I'm missing your equipment, or I see that you have 3 rental properties on your tax return that you didn't tell me about. Talk to me about these. What's the value? You know, and the longer it takes for people to respond to us, the longer the certification process can take. Once the business is certified, it is on our directory. It is a live updated directory. So the minute someone finalizes one of my analysts finalizes a firm, they are up on that directory, same day, same moment. We remove firms if they don't respond to us within their renewal dates. There's a whole intent process. We do everything. We get notifications. We send notifications via email 75, 45, and 20 days in advance of those renewal dates. And if they still don't respond to us, then we send them a letter. And then they have 20 days to respond. The directory is fully searchable. You can search by county, you can search by NAICS code, you can search by name, you can search by certification type. You can download the entire directory if you wanted, which I don't recommend doing because it's not really easy to search that way. But you can quickly find businesses that will help your projects. It will help you be quickly identified. We work with businesses to develop appropriate business descriptions, not just NAICS codes. So you can be found either by the specific code, or if someone is looking for caterer and they type in caterer, it pulls up everyone who has caterer in their business description. And that's all I got. I told you I would go quickly. Do you have any other questions for me?
Amal,
Yes.
if one of the small business that is in the process of applying for state certification,
Yeah.
and they didn't realize they can also use OMWBE to get a federal certification like a DBE.
Yeah.
At what point can they still be able to do that at the same time, or do they just need to file two?
They need to file 2, unfortunately.
Okay.
I can't undo that because the document requirements on the state and federal are slightly different, and the questions, the application is different. So I do need a separate federal application.
Okay.
I can add a fast track to a federal, but I can't add a state. I can't add a federal to a state that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Amal, just a quick note on the certifications that you have kind of gone over. One of the things that's not represented through OMWBE, but that is a Washington State certification, is veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. And they can get that certification through the Department of Veteran Affairs in Washington State. And of all the certifications, state, federal, everything, the VA certification causes the least amount of anxiety and angst. And I highly recommend it for all my veteran businesses to be certified at the state level.
Yeah.
Mostly, because there's a decal that you can download and put on your marketing materials. And so with that, do you have any kind of a logo or anything
Mhm.
for certified companies that they
We
can?
absolutely do.
Oh, good.
So if you go, hold on, I will pull it up right now. If you go to nope, that's not it. This is it. All right, share screen. Okay, can you see the website? If you go to About Us,
Yes.
use of logos,
Okay.
there you go.
Oh, perfect.
Yep, so we have all the different images that you can download.
That must be relatively new because I think years ago that was not ever anything that was available.
I've seen it since 2017, since I got to the agency.
Okay, well, that's
So
good.
yeah, it's there. It's absolutely there. I know that our certification sort of has the potential reputation of being slightly more challenging than some of the other certifications. But we do try really hard. And as I said earlier, we've got a new role specifically devoted to improving the customer experience within the application process itself and within OMWBE. So how do we adjust because we have under certification, we have a ton of information. We have FAQs and changes, and we even talk about veteran-owned business certification. But this information can always be improved upon. And then the actual application itself, because we use B2G now, we can't always make it the way we want it. We can do some configuration changes, but we can't make it perfect. So how do we improve that process? We have a survey that we send out to to newly certified firms when they finish their certification, or even if they've been denied, we ask them, how was it? Did you get denied nicely, or were we jerks about it? So we're always trying to improve that process. And the challenge is that fine line of we aren't a self-identifying certification process. We're not. We are here to ensure that individuals who are socially and economically disadvantaged, as described by the USDOT, SBA rules, and the WACs, which mirror, that those individuals are being certified, that they meet the criteria for personal net worth, that their businesses are small according to that size standard. And that takes some digging, and that takes some communication with firms. And really the biggest place that I see people feeling frustrated is around ownership and control, because it's not enough to just own 51% of the business. You have to be able to show that you control it. So a plumbing business, I'm a teacher, my husband's a plumber, I now own 50% of a plumbing business, but I don't know anything about plumbing. According to the box of the rules, can't get certified. There's no doubt that my husband needs me to run a successful business because he's plumbing and I have to do all the other stuff, but that's not how the rules are written. So having those conversations with applicants is challenging. We are not out to insult people. We are not out to claim that women can't do these jobs, but this is the box of the rules that we are left with. So within that, how do we make certification seamless? How do we make it more fun if possible? How do we make it so we're not asking for your firstborn? You know, we're always looking to improve that.
Thank you.
Of course.
And one other little thing that we touched on a little bit in the previous meeting was HubZone.
Mhm.
And do you have any updates from the state of Washington in regards to what the governor called HubZone certification or HubZone
don't.
resources?
I don't. That would be a question for our deputy director and Timolin, and I will add to that for the list of prime contractors, and I will ask them around about that too.
Okay, so actually that's it for all of my questions. I'll leave it open for anybody else.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a comment. I've been dealing with OMWBE off and on for probably about 8-9 years now. And I would like to say that we're trying not to be jerks, I believe, as you put it. It is actually coming across very well, because back in 12 and 13, it was always kind of just a jagged edge to every conversation. And it's nice to have a pleasant presentation of info. As much as you can drown in this data, it's still nice to have, just a kid jumping in and you're smiling while you talk. These things were not necessarily present 8 years ago, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great to hear.
So if we have no other questions, maybe we'll do a little wrap up here. What I would like to do is thank them all for coming to bat for us today and really going into a deep dive on some of these issues that are unique to OMWBE. One of the things I wanted to tell everybody real quick is that Washington PTAC partners with OMWBE to provide workshops where, they will come, well, it used to be, they would come to our workshop and meet with the people interested in getting certified. And it was a couple hours, and every single time it was incredible to me to see the outcomes of the one-on-ones and the certification process and the speed to which they were completed, because the reality is at those workshops, everything was done correctly from the get-go. So it eliminated a lot of the trial and error. So thank you, Amal. And I'd also like to thank Mian Rice. He's left for the day, but I wanted to recognize his representing the Port of Seattle for this event. And we really appreciated him coming. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aisha. But before that, I'd like to recognize Jessica Chang for all of her hard work in putting all of this together for us. And she's going to ride off into the sunset here when we shut down our Zoom meeting today and move on to MBDA Tacoma. Is that right, Jessica?
Well, actually, thank you, Leslie. I have already started at MBDA Tacoma, but it's been a pleasure working with you and Aisha and of course, Andrew, and so many other prestigious partners like OMWBE, who's always willing to come in, help us and put out your program and make our program even more interesting and more useful to our small businesses. So thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Okay, Aisha, we'll leave it up to you, and hopefully we'll see everybody else later.
All right, thank you, Leslie, and thank you everyone for being a part of our workshop series today. Like Leslie said, my name is Aisha, I'm with the SBTRC. And if you need any help, any business help whatsoever with anything, or you need extra help being connected to our amazing presenters today, please let me know. I can also connect you with any other business organizations in the area. So please don't hesitate to reach out.